Hi guys, welcome back to RUE Morgue TV. I am executive editor Andrea Subasati, and issue 206 of RUE Morgue is on stands now, and it is chock full of rad features. We have a cover story on Eskil Vogt's The Innocents. We've got coverage of the new Firestarter movie. We've got an interview with Phil Tippett on his new full-length stop-motion horror movie. That's going to be on Shudder, and it is awesome, and you need to see it. We've also got a feature on Wild Eye releasing. You might have heard of Amityville in Space. Yeah, that's them. So be sure to check that out. We'll link everything in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and enjoy this episode.
Welcome to another episode of Tarot here on RUE Morgue TV, where we look at the use of tarot cards in horror films. My name's Laura Hokstad. I'm an intern here at RUE Morgue, as well as a tarot card reader. And on today's episode, we are going to be looking at Clive Barker's 1995 horror thriller, Lord of Illusions. The film opens on a character named Nyx, who is a cult leader and illusionist.
And the fire said to me, Nyx, you are my instrument. From now on, you shall be known as the Puritan.
He has just recently kidnapped a young girl that him and his cult members plan on sacrificing so he can get more power. Some of his ex-cult members are coming back to try and stop him from doing this. One of those members is a character named Philip Swan, who was Nyx's former protege. As they're trying to stop him from killing this young girl, Nyx transfers some of his power to Swan. Once he does that, they are able to overpower Nyx, and they put this kind of like metal iron mask bondagey thing on his face so that I guess he can't use his power. They do that and then they bury him in the desert. So that's like the cold open. And then it jumps 13 years later and we find out now that Swan is this like big illusionist, so this powers that was given to him, he's now using to kind of further his career. But at the same time as we learn that, we also learn that some former cult members are trying to resurrect Nyx and bring him back to life. We then meet a character named Harry D'Amour, and he's an investigator that was hired by Swan to look into the deaths of some of the cult members that tried to stop Nyx 13 years ago. And we discover that Nyx's kind of right-hand man has been killing them off one by one. And while Harry is investigating, he comes across Butterfield, which is Nyx's right-hand man, murdering one of the former cult members who tried to stop Nyx. And this person's name is Quaid, and he happens to be a tarot card reader.
Did you come up here for a reading? What? You're drawn to the dark side.
And with his last kind of dying breaths, he gives Harry a warning that something bad is coming and that Harry has to be careful because he has a tendency to walk the line between good and evil and right and wrong. So before Quaid was murdered, it appears that he was in the middle of doing a tarot card spread. And after he dies, Harry kind of examines the cards a little bit closer. The cards that we see are laid out in what's called a Tree of Life tarot spread formation. And the deck that he is using is the Rider-Waite tarot deck. So there are quite a few cards in this reading. And I think what I'm going to do is just kind of talk about the ones that really kind of come up later on in the film. One of the first ones that we see is the Five of Wands. And this card tends to represent conflict and fighting. It can be infighting within a group, or it can also be kind of a battle between two opposing factions. I can see this card foreshadowing the climax of the film where there's this fight between Swan, Harry, and Nyx once he's resurrected. So this is kind of foreshadowing us to know that there is a big battle coming. Another card that we see is the Magician card, and I found this one quite interesting because the title of the movie, Lord of Illusions, is actually a reference to a description of the Magician card in Aleister Crowley's book called The Book of Thoth. The magician that Aleister Crowley describes in the book is someone who has command over fire and can levitate, which is interesting because those are two powers that Nyx himself holds. So we can see that Clive Barker based the character of Nyx quite heavily on this description of the magician card that Aleister Crowley had written. Other cards that we see are the Tower card and the Devil card. And the Tower card, I also believe, foreshadows the ending of this film in that this card represents a sudden and drastic change. So this could be that ultimate battle between Nyx, Harry, and Swan once he is resurrected. Also, I see the Devil card as being kind of representative of Nyx because he is this charismatic cult leader, but his intentions are not good. He actually says at one point in the movie that he is here to murder the world. So I see that Devil card as being somebody who's very charismatic and he draws people in, but he's doing that for his own means. And he really isn't thinking about anybody else. He's very much just like focused on this path of destruction. Another card that I noticed in the spread as well is the Three of Swords. And I think that this card is also foreshadowing this kind of love triangle that we see develop between Swan, Harry, and Dorothy. And Dorothy is married to Swan, and we later discover that she is actually the young girl that Nyx kidnapped at the beginning of the film. So she tells Harry that she's married to Swan, but doesn't have any real feelings for him. So her and Harry end up having a connection and developing feelings for each other. There are a lot of other cards that we see on the table. However, the one that is focused on is the Ten of Swords that Harry flips over. And this card represents betrayal, backstabbing. The image on the card is literally a person lying down with 10 swords in his back. And this is interesting because when Harry flips this card over, he's still sitting beside the dead body of Quaid, who has been stabbed 10 times with small, tiny knives. So there is that connection to be drawn to the imagery of Quaid and the imagery on this card. Another connection to this card is the way in which Swan dies, or I should say fakes his own death, later in the film. He is strapped to this wooden board with 10 swords hanging above him. And the illusion is he's supposed to get out of the way as the swords are dropping. But there's a malfunction in his lock, he's not able to do it, and we see all the swords kind of like falling down and stabbing him. So when I see this card, knowing that, I really do think that this card is also foreshadowing. But the card is also about betrayal. So in that way, Swan has faked his own death through this elaborate illusion. So he's not only visually represented by this card, but he has betrayed his wife, he's betrayed his friends in faking his own death. So when I look at the spread as a whole, I can see the entire movie playing out, and that all accumulates to this Tower card that is in the center of the spread. And that to me signifies that final battle between Nyx, Harry, and Swan. When I look at the tarot spread, I do think that it was done very purposefully. And when I was listening to the DVD commentary on the film, Clive Barker speaks about how this scene in particular, the tarot card scene, was very important to him, and that he wanted to have this as the opening scene, and it was actually the first scene that they wrote when they adapted the book to film. Clive Barker is a very visual storyteller, and in that way, I know that these cards were chosen specifically for this scene. I don't think anything in his films is not done with purpose, and this tarot card spread is included in that. This film was entertaining to watch. It kind of has a mix of classic Clive Barker body horror with this little element of a detective story in the character of Harry D'Amour. And I think that those two elements work very well together. In terms of the use of tarot cards, it is definitely very purposeful. I get a lot of meaning and foreshadowing about the film from this spread. So in that way, I do think it was very well done. So overall, like I said, I feel like Clive Barker doesn't do anything without purpose, and that includes this tarot spread. I think that it does really foreshadow some things that happened in the film and give some interesting interpretations to the characters. Like we said, who is this reading for and what can they learn from it?
Where is Swan? He's dead. No, he isn't. I swear.
That's another episode of Tarot on RUE MORGUE TV. Please remember to like and subscribe for more content, and also leave a comment below if there's something that you interpret in the cards differently, or if you have recommendations for other movies that feature tarot cards. My name's Laura Hokstad. Join me next time, and we'll see what's in the cards.
What do I want to say? Makes me think of Crispin Glover and Charlie's Angels.
What is wrong with that intro? Everything. Yeah.
That's amazing. It sounds the same.
But the words weren't right. Okay, sorry.
It took me a minute.
I was like,
what's happening?
boop, 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 boop.